The frozen winds of Carveth 9 howled through the research outpost's damaged hull, carrying with them the promise of a slow, cold death. Lena pressed her back against the cryo-storage unit, the only source of warmth in the abandoned facility, and stared at the protein bar in her trembling hands. 3 days since the evacuation ships left without her. 3 days since the communications array shattered under the ice storm. 3 days of rationing what little remained. She broke the bar in half, tucking one piece into her thermal suit pocket for tomorrow. The other half barely satisfied the gnawing hunger in her stomach. But it would have to do. The rescue beacon was active, help would come. It had to. That's when she heard it, a soft, chittering sound from the shadows near the broken doorway. Lena's hand instinctively moved to the plasma cutter at her belt, but she froze when she saw what emerged from the darkness. It was small, no larger than a Terran fox with midnight blue fur that shimmered like oil on water, and 6 crystalline eyes that reflected the dim emergency lights. A Carveth predator cub, one of the planet's apex hunters, though this one looked barely old enough to hunt. The creature limped forward, one of its 4 legs dragging uselessly behind it. Blood, or what passed for blood in Carveth fauna, oozed from a gash along its flank. It stopped several feet away, watching her with an intelligence that seemed far too ancient for something so young. "Hey there," Lena whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "You're hurt too, huh?" The cub tilted its head, ears flattening against its skull. It made no aggressive move, just stood there, shivering in the cold. Lena had read the briefings. Carveth predators were dangerous, cunning pack hunters that could strip a full-grown human to bones in minutes. But the files also mentioned their intelligence, their complex social structures, She looked down at the half-protein bar still clutched in her other hand. The half she'd saved for tomorrow. "This is stupid," she muttered to herself. Monumentally, catastrophically stupid. But she was already extending her hand, the quarter bar resting on her palm. The cub's eyes fixed on the offering, then flicked back to her face. It took one cautious step forward, then another. When it was close enough, it delicately plucked the food from her hand with surprisingly gentle jaws and retreated to the corner, devouring the synthetic nutrients with desperate hunger. Lena smiled despite herself. "Guess we're both pretty pathetic right now." The next morning, Lena woke to find the cub curled against her side, sharing its body heat. She should have been terrified, but the warmth was too precious to reject. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She had nothing left now, nothing at all. The last protein bar was gone, shared with a creature that by all rights should have seen her as prey. She spent the day trying to repair the communications array with makeshift tools, her hands shaking from cold and exhaustion. The cub, she'd started calling it Rin in her mind, after an old Earth legend about a helpful spirit, watched from a distance, occasionally disappearing through the broken doorway only to return minutes later. As the artificial lights dimmed toward evening, signaling another brutal night, Lena slumped against the wall, accepting her fate. She'd done what she could. At least she'd die having shown kindness to another living being. That's when Rin appeared in the doorway, dragging something large behind it. Lena's eyes widened. It was a Carveth ice hare, freshly killed, easily twice the size of the cub itself. Rin pulled it across the floor and deposited it at Lena's feet, then sat back on its haunches, those 6 crystalline eyes watching her expectantly. You brought this for me?" Lena's voice cracked with emotion. The cub chittered softly, nudging the carcass toward her with its nose. Lena's survival training kicked in. She used the plasma cutter to field dress the animal, her hands working with practiced efficiency despite her weakness. The meat was alien but edible. The survey team had confirmed that much. She carved off portions, cooking them carefully over the plasma cutter's lowest setting. She ate her fill for the first time in days, then carved off choice pieces for Rin. The cub ate alongside her, and Lena couldn't help but laugh, a raw, genuine sound that echoed through the empty outpost. "You didn't just bring one meal, did you?" she said, noticing how much meat remained. "This is enough for both of us for at least 2 days." "Double what I gave you." Rin's ear twitched, and if Lena didn't know better, she'd swear the creature looked pleased with itself. Over the next 3 days, a routine developed. Rin would hunt in the early mornings, bringing back fresh kills, always more than needed, always shared. Lena worked on repairs, slowly restoring power to secondary systems. At night, they huddled together for warmth, an unlikely pair surviving against impossible odds. Lena talked to Rin constantly, telling stories of Earth, of humanity's history of helping those in need, even when it cost them dearly. She didn't know if the cub understood, but it listened, those crystalline eyes never leaving her face. "We're pack animals too, you know," she explained one evening, stroking Rin's soft fur. "We survive because we help each other, even when it doesn't make sense. Especially when it doesn't make sense." On the 7th day, the rescue ship arrived. The crew found Lena in the outpost, healthy and alert despite the circumstances. They found the Carveth predator cub standing protectively beside her, growling low at the armed rescuers. "Stand down," Lena commanded, placing herself between Rin and the soldiers. "This one's with me." The captain, a grizzled veteran named Chen, stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "Ma'am, that's a Class 4 predator. We can't—" "I shared my last meal with her when I had nothing," Lena interrupted, her voice steel. "She brought me twice what I gave her every single day after. She kept me alive. She's coming with us or you're leaving me here. Your choice." Chen looked at the fierce determination in Lena's eyes, then at the cub pressed against her leg, and sighed the sigh of a man who knew when he was beaten. "Fine. But you're explaining this to command." As they boarded the rescue ship, Rin pressed close to Lena's side. Through the viewport, Lena watched Carveth 9 fade into the distance, a frozen hell that had somehow become the birthplace of an impossible friendship. "You know," Chen said quietly, standing beside her, "the xenobiologists are going to have a field day with this. Carveth predators don't bond with other species. Ever." Lena smiled, scratching behind Rin's ear. Maybe they never had a reason to before. Maybe all they needed was for someone to share half their ration first. Chen shook his head in amazement. Only a human would gamble their last meal on kindness, and only a Carveth predator would remember it, Lena replied. "Maybe we're not so different after all." Rin chittered softly, a sound that might have been agreement, and curled up at Lena's feet as the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them both toward home.